everybody, welcome to Celtic Rumours TV, episode number 230, the Bawz and Bovril podcast. Myself, Mark. Tonight we're getting joined by our wee angry Irishman. How you doing, Terence?
Good evening, bud. How are you?
I'm good, mate, thanks.
I missed that picture.
Just looking at mirror. This is our podcast with our forum at www.CelticRumoursTV.co.uk. You can find a link to that in the Discord and everything in the description box below. There's a wee link tree thing to connect everything on there. A few shout outs to some of the lads for the pods. I need this off the top of my head tonight again. Mikey, Paul's there in Poland now on holiday. I hope he's having a good time over there. Paul, Welshie, Big Jabber. See, my mind goes a blank when I try to do this. I'll just skip that, in fact. Sorry lads, I've not got the notepad thing that I keep on the computer on this computer. There, Bobby in the night anyway. Hail Bobby, nice to see you, buddy. Cameron, nice to see you as well, mate. Patrick McLaughlin, thanks for coming in to Grot Bags. Well, Terence, we went for the highs to winning the double at the end of last season. We thought, surely to God, we weren't going to have another summer like we've been having, and it's actually fucking worse. Let's not be kidding. It's worse than we expected. It is for me anyway.
Oh, listen, I've been the same boat as you, Mark. It's shocking. It's shocking. It's disgraceful. And it's clear as day that the man in the position of CEO of the company hasn't a clue what he's doing. He's not. Michael Nicholson isn't fit for purpose. Be coming out with statements like it's really hard to deal with agents and all the rest of it. That's an embarrassing statement from the head of Celtic to come out with. It's embarrassing. It shows you how incapable he is of doing a job like.
See, to put the shoe in other foot, Terence.
He can sell players, no problem though.
But I was pronounced it Hoy. I thought it was that, but it turns out it's who it's pronounced. He get the who deal out of the line. So that's one of the biggest transfers of Celtic's done in its full history. You know what I mean? What money wise, I'm talking about in that, and it's.
Oh yeah, but Mark, the thing about it is
he can do it. Is he getting hamstrung from above? Is it really Dermot Desmond that's actually controlling what Nicholson's doing?
I don't know, Mark. I don't know, but from the outside looking in, everyone will assume that's the case. But at the same time, like if that is the case, then surely the likes of Michael Nicholson should be just going, look, I know if I was in that position, I know it's hindsight, it's a wonderful thing, you'd be kind of saying, let me do my job or get someone to do the job. Because if Dermot Desmond is stepping in the toes like that, then this is only going to end one way. And it's going to end horribly wrong. Because we're in a situation where we've got one goalkeeper, realistically one goalkeeper who's okay. Nothing spectacular, okay. And then we've got your man, is it Doohan? Is that the right pronunciation? As the backup keeper. We've got a left back that generally struggles to play 90 minutes. And we've got no sub. In their head, they've now got Liam Scales, who's one of the better centre backs, as the backup full back. Last week, Alistair Johnson had to switch to left back because they had no left back, and they still don't have one. The manager is obviously saying stuff that I don't think I believe, to be honest with you, because he's gone from all of a sudden, and I like the guy. All of a sudden, Dane Murray now is a solid defender. We don't need another centre back, and within a week of that, Celtic are hopeful of getting your man Benjamin Arthur back from Brighton, where 2 weeks ago there was no chance of any centre back joining. So you don't know what to believe.
I know Martin O'Neill came out and said that he wasn't looking for any and looking to bring any centre backs, but Terence, see, even for the numbers itself, you need 5 centre backs. I mean, we went into the game last weekend, right, with 4 centre backs in the squad. Carter Vickers was just coming back for injury, right? You don't know how he's going to react in his first game. Carter Vickers was just coming back. Liam Scales was banned. Do you know what I mean? So you're like an injury or a red card away from an actual disaster. Do you know what I mean? So
But
I'm not wearing that at all. Celtic must, just for even the balance of the squad, Celtic must be looking to bring in a centre back.
oh, I listen, but Mark, I fully agree with you. But this is where none of the logic sits. Like there's obviously, thankfully, it doesn't look like Alistair Johnson is going at the minute. But if Alistair Johnson was going, it was meaning that it was a young Donovan and Ralston for right back. I like young Donovan, but he's a young lad as well. But there's a huge difference between Alistair Johnson and young Kobe Donovan. Do you know? And
Tony Ralston.
and Tony Ralston. Do you know? And like, it's just like if 2 or 3 players, if the window closed the weekend, hypothetically, the window had closed soon enough, and Celtic don't really get many more reinforcements in, and 2 or 3 injuries come, all of a sudden that's like you're in a world of trouble. Like, especially in defence. Like if Celtic's keeper got injured, they don't bring in another keeper. You're bringing in young that Doohan lad. If, as we said, if Tierney gets injured and don't bring in a left back, that means Scales, who I've always rated as a centre back. Look, I know he's prone to the odd mistake, but all the rest of them are the same. But he's been one of the better centre backs that they've had. He then has to go to left back. Do you know, you're. It's mind boggling. It's mind boggling to me, Mark, when they've got so much money banked away, and they're willing to pay so much out every year in taxes in the amount of money that they've kept, and also the fact that you've got a Champions League qualifier coming up. That it appears to me they haven't learned anything from last year. You know, they went into the game last year with no centre forward, assumed they were going to beat that Kyle Alamati, and lost the penalties. Now again, Celtic are light in positions. If for argument's sake, Engels goes and so who else was I forget who else was Alistair Johnson.
Hatate will be probably away as well.
Yeah, well, if Hatate and Engels goes again, and nothing's brought in to replace him, like the German lad Bayu, or how you pronounce it, like they're talking 5 million. Yes, people will argue he's got promoted into the Bundesliga, the whole lot, blah blah blah. I get all that. But like, if there's such a small margin of money between the two, like, and Celtic really wanted this player, you know, Celtic they should be paying the 5 million from. You can say, okay, Celtic shouldn't pay it because they don't see the value in him. But in modern day football, Mark, as I said loads of times, 5 million is probably not a whole lot of money in modern day football. You know, I mean,
the Bawz one, Terence, that's the one that totally baffles me.
Yeah, me too.
We agreed terms with him weeks ago. He's put in a transfer request and everything, which means he's done away with his cut of the money, which should balance out the actual transfer fee difference, I thought. And we're talking about Michael Nicholson, you're right. Terence, the negotiating with players was usually the hard part. We're doing that bit, and it's the clubs that we're struggling to negotiate with. You ask if the agent, you'll do a wee deal with the agent if he's interested, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Find out how much the club's looking for. The club will say a price, right? They'll either stick to their guns or you'll get a wee bit off it. But that's it. That's it. If you've ever agreed terms with a player, the next bit's the easy bit, negotiating with the team. Especially do you get what I mean? And that I really can't understand how these deals are taking so long. I mean, the Who deal, right? Everybody's saying, oh, why not just pay the money and that? But the guy himself hadn't decided that he was leaving Bodo Glimt, right? He informed Bodo Glimt one weekend that that was it. He decided he wanted to make a move and blah blah blah. And Celtic had him signed up about 5-6 days later. That's how, right? So they had up again, no making excuses for Celtic. It wasn't on their side, but as soon as it was available, Celtic pulled the trigger on that. And yet we've been scrimping and scraping and arguing our, which literally it's pennies we're arguing our terms in the modern day transfer fees. Do you know what I mean?
But this is what I don't understand, Mark. It is tiny money in modern day football, and like you said, every time you see it, it's personal terms agreed, and like fine. It seems to be a case that say a club says we won 5 million. Celtic go in with 4.2 or whatever it is, 4.3. They always go way below it or a good bit below it. But surely when the club go, no, we want 5 million. And everything's done and dusted. And you know you need bodies in the door. You know you need that type of player. And more importantly, that type of player wants to come. Then you're going, Celtic, pay the 5 million. The likelihood that Engels is going to go for 18 or 20 million could be more, but it could be 18 or 20 million with add-ons, whatever you want to call it. You know, you're going to be getting out Engels, who's hit and miss, to be fair, and you're getting in a guy who seems to fit the mold that they're looking for. And again, I don't know what the ins and outs of it are with the Egyptian lad. Is it Hassan or however you pronounce his name? But you're hearing that personal terms are agreed, everything's agreed, and next minute you hear, oh, he's going here. Oh, it should be sorted with Celtic in the next day or two. But nothing seems to take a day or two. It seems to take, like, the German lad one must be going on for the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. And I'm not trying to be funny, but I know most other clubs, and even a lot of the clubs in Scotland, as bad as some of them are, they're getting the deal done. They're getting stuff, they appear to be getting stuff done very quickly. And, you know, Celtic seem to be linked with so many players, and there's so many people talking. But that's as far as it goes, like. And I find, Mark, when they sell a player, and their player is linked to be sold, their player they're looking is to move on, it seems to be that Celtic are capable of doing that lightning quick. In most cases, I mean lightning quick, that they're gone. Whereas when it's the roles reversed, when it's buying a player, it just seems to take an eternity. Apart from, as you said, the high one, which seemed to be done nearly, dare I say, I won't say overnight, but as soon as it came out, it was done very quickly. So I don't understand how there's such a disparity between the two of them. 1 minute it seems to be no problem, the next minute it seems to be near impossible. I don't know. It beggars belief for me anyway.
It's just it baffles me, Terence, that we're doing the hard stuff. We're doing the hard stuff and not doing the easy part.
Yeah, I think
how intricate and befuddled and all that these modern contracts are, negotiations with players and the money that they're wanting and all that. And we're doing all that, and yet we can't just agree a fee with a club.
Yeah, like, but that's the easy part.
Easy bit of it.
Someone says 8 million, and we Celtic go, okay, look, can we give you 6.5 now, and we'll give you 1.5 over the next 2 years, or whatever the way they do it, I don't know. And the other crowd go, no, we want 7 million now. All right, we'll give you 7 million, we'll give you 1 million over the next year and a half, or whatever way they want to do it, I don't know. But, like, it just seems to be a case that the club who are Celtic trying to buy from give a figure, Celtic offer whatever they offer, the club say no, and that seems to be it. Like,
aye, and you should. It's like because of the way Celtic are, as you say, Terence, negotiating the sale of players. Celtic themselves should know whether the teams are they're negotiating. They should know whether the other teams' negotiators are having a wee bit of a bluff. Do you know what I mean? Guys like even Nicholson, he's done some good deals. He's pulled off some absolute massive blunders, but he's been running. He should know enough now to get the general feeling if this other club's willing to have a wee bit of come and go or the fee, or whether they're going to just stick to their guns. You know what I mean? Because he'll know himself that Celtic will get maybe an offer for a player, and they'll turn it down, but they'll maybe not give the other team what they want, but they'll tell. But Michael Nicholson will maybe hint, well, you maybe weren't far away there of getting round the table. Do you know what I mean? So it's a case of they come back in and add another 1 million or 2 million on, and that's it, pulled the magic button kind of thing. But see, it's just to negotiate transfer fees with a club for weeks is craziness when you're not talking about these mad £100 million deals and all that, obviously. But
like the Celtic one with the German lad, I think I could be wrong, and obviously correct me, or anyone can correct me if I'm wrong. But like it appears to be something like about 300,000 in the difference, I think. I could be wrong though, Mark, but that's
what everybody's been saying, Terence. Whether it's true or no, I don't know. But see, if it is that, Right, see the player Bill putting in the transfer request. That's him waived his rights to 10% of the transfer fee. So if we were paying 4.8 million and he was due something like nearly 10% of that, 480,000. So he's turned that down. So even that should he's done that to push the move through, and it's still not went through. I mean, you know yourself, if a player puts in a transfer request, he wants out the door. You tell the club, I want out. There's a written transfer request, and I want to go to Celtic. What's the hold up in this?
This is Mark. This is what I cannot get my head around it. And I'd look up the Celtic news every day. You know, Celtic rumours, transfers, and all this kind of stuff. And every day you just see it all due to sign today, to be sorted in the next 24 hours. And you see all them, and you're going like this is. I don't even believe it anymore. Like deep down inside me, I'm going. Do I think that German lad, that Bauer lad, is probably done? You feel like it is. I don't even believe the one about the Hassan fella coming in the door, even though you're hearing it's supposed to be done and dusted. Again, personal terms agreed. He's supposed to be nearly good as agreed. But literally, I'd say until the way Celtic are running it, Mark, until I literally saw the guy in the telly, in a jersey, standing in Parkhead, I wouldn't believe he was signed. That's how bad it is.
Then you'd message me and say, "Is that real or is that AI?"
Yeah. You know, you'd nearly think did he really sign? You know, because it just I don't know. It just beggars belief how they're running this stuff. And like you said, Mark, like it's hard to believe that this is worse than last year. It's hard to believe that it is, but it's not. It probably is. And I've said here on numerous occasions, Mark, when it comes to this kind of stuff, and what's the carrot that's available to Celtic, like you speculate to accumulate. I know people will argue that Celtic paid 11 million for Hoy and they paid 5 million or whatever it is for what's his name? Duran, yeah. But at the same time, they're probably still in a positive, because Maeda went for 10 million, and I'm sure there's probably a few add-ons there. So that nearly pretty much flattened out the Hoy deal.
And Palma went. Narovsky and Palma know that as well.
Palma, Narovsky, and the Japanese lad all covered your man's fees, and probably even over them. So Celtic are probably still, probably zero when it came to money in and money out. If not, there might be a couple of 100,000 in the plus and the positive. So I don't understand when there's 40 million at stake that these businessmen, so-called businessmen, are dealing the way they're dealing, because it's glaringly obvious to the vast majority of fans out there. I can tell you, we need a goalie. We need another left back. We need a centre back. We need at least one or two midfielders and probably a winger. So everyone knew that Celtic. You're playing that Duran fella on the wing when he's realistic. Scored 3 goals in 3 games pre-season. I get it, as a centre forward, and because Celtic realistically don't really have someone out on the right, or say they've got to put him out there. I just find the whole, and the problem is, Mark, if they keep it in this system that they have, and they keep it the way they're going, as I say, the chickens will come home to roost, and it'll backfire, and it'll backfire badly. Like, because if Celtic get knocked out by this Austrian crowd, they'll be absolute hell to pay.
Nah.
I know, but we said this last year, Mark. We said this last year.
You know how I feel about last year. I put that on Rodgers and the players 100%.
Oh, I do too. But there's nothing to say it won't. There's nothing to say it won't happen again. But Celtic were in a position to make it not obviously guaranteed, because there's nothing guaranteed in life bar taxes and debt. But like, you can go a long way to making it a lot more comfortable.
Aye.
By signing a bit of quality and signing players that they need. Like, you'd even question.
When you go there.
No, go on, Mark, go on.
I was just going to say, well, one of the main differences between like now and last summer is that we're actually hearing that deals are that things are agreed with players and stuff like that. Whereas last summer it would just end up a complete scattergun approach towards the end. Well, we know how that turned out. But I mean, at least the players that were linked with it and were hearing that, oh, we've agreed terms with it, we just need to negotiate the fee with the team, with the club and that. Well, they look decent players, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they do. But
They look at the level of the players that we kind of need and that we want. Do you know what I mean? There doesn't seem to be any. I mean, people are saying about Hassan's a bit of a punt in that, but just because he's goal scoring, I mean, that team he was playing, they get relegated, didn't they?
I think so, yeah.
You're not going to be rattling in goals 10 a penny for any position if your team's doing their fighting. Do you know what I mean?
Listen, Mark, wait, and I, as much as I like the player, and I really did like him, wait till you see how different my head is going to be with Ipswich.
Aye.
And Ipswich supporters will probably say, God, how did we sign him? He's no good. Maeda was on a team that was getting a ton of chances with Celtic.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be on a team that's going to spend most of the league on the back foot, I would imagine. And he's going to be harassing and chasing. His work rate will never be in question. But it's a big difference when you're playing in a team that's struggling to get possession and struggling to in the league that they're in. That lad Hassan looked like he looked very direct. He looked bit of skill. He looked to beat players in the World Cup that I saw him, and he looked decent at that. I'd be perfectly honest. If he was a fella that didn't score a whole lot of goals, would I be worried about it? Probably not. If he set up tons of goals, I'd be quite content.
I mean, I put up some of the stuff on the forum about him, like for scouting reports and that, and basically, he's needing to produce a wee bit better in the final third, like goals and assists and stuff like that. But I mean, he's dribbling and he's rapid, Terence, as well. And see with Maeda, if you're quick, you've got a right good chance of turning into a cracking player in Scotland, because speed goes a long way. Do you know what I mean?
But he's the kind of guy, Mark, that the likes of Oy and Duran would love. Down the wing, taking on the defender, whipping the ball in, and the likes of that Hoy fella probably is your box centre forward, your goal poacher. He's probably not going to do a huge amount outside it, maybe link up play and stuff like that. But the majority, I imagine, if you watch the majority of his goals with Bodo Glint, they're probably all inside the box. You know what I mean? So we've always criticised here that Celtic if they have had a centre forward, the service has always been poor. So now if this lad does come in and one of his biggest qualities is taking on players, beating players, and providing, I'm okay with that. He'll get his few goals. Like he'll knock in his few goals. But like, look at the Celtic wingers that have been there. Yang scored a few goals last year. Your man, pronounce his name, Tomas, the Tunisian fella. He was very hit and miss. Chineki, he was very hit and miss. Do you know what I mean?
Mere missed and hit, to be honest, wasn't he?
Yeah, James Forrest was there. Maeda, had a great finish to the season, but up to the break, he was a bit hit and miss as well. So like, I mean, there's expectations that you could go through all the midfielders with the exception of Negrin, who scored a hatful. Probably, I don't know, did any of the other midfielders even get near 10 goals for the year? I don't know. Someone could obviously answer me that, but
I don't think so.
So you can be overcritical about someone, but like if that Hassan guy came in and he provided 10 or 12 goals during the season, or a couple of assists like that, wouldn't you be over the moon? And he scored maybe 2 or 3 goals, I'd be quite delighted with that.
Aye.
I'd be over the moon with that, like. So yeah, I think people can be overcritical, and also I saw someone put it up in the forum, and it was a very fair point. We're crying out for signings, and then when signings look like they're going to be made, people are criticising the signings before they've even come in. Which again doesn't seem very fair. Like,
I mean, we can all look at stats and stuff like that, and even if you've watched games with players and that, I mean, I've said, me and you, Terence, we've not got encyclopedic knowledge of players like Do you know what I mean? You throw a name at Mikey or Jonas or that, and then even Bobby. Do you know what I mean? They know
Yeah.
all about them and stuff like that. So you can only go by like us with our stats, but until you see them, I mean, Larson wasn't doing any great shakes. 1 and 4 goals there in Holland when we signed them.
Oh, yeah.
One goal in four games. I mean, Chris Sutton was at Chelsea and stunk up the place down there. It's just until you see them in a Celtic top and see what they can actually do, kind of hold your wrist a bit. Do you know what I mean?
Listen. If that guy came in, you'd judging on what you saw in the World Cup, you'd say there's a player there. He's taking on guys. He's committing fullback. Something we'd be crying out for. You'd go 100% take him and be delighted to have him. And at the end of the month, at the end of the year, if he's had a howler, say, well, look, it hasn't quite worked out. But to be writing him off before he even comes in is a bit much, like, because I wouldn't watch Spanish football, so I wouldn't know anything, especially if he was down in the Spanish second division. You know, so I just think they need to let bodies come in. And in fairness, what I will say is, as much as I criticise them, at least the players that they're going for, there seems to be a bit of quality in it.
Aye.
You know, no, I would say one thing though, Mark, on it. I would have liked to seen Celtic get maybe 2 or 3. Well, certainly maybe 1 or 2 anyway, at least lads that are already in the league. Like, I do think the lad, I know he had been linked with it, and he's probably going to Anderlecht. Is it Will Ferry?
Aye.
He could do a job. Like, you could play him fullback, you could play him further up the field. Like, he knows the league. You know what you're going to get with him. Do you know what I mean? Every signing doesn't need to be a superstar.
Are you going to be happy to come in and play second fiddle to Tierney?
But the thing about it though, Mark, is he may not always play full back. He may play further up. He may play left side of midfield. You know, he might know. They could say to him, "We'll utilise you in a couple of different ways." But the other side of it, Mark, he knows that the likes of Kieran Tierney doesn't seem to be, in a lot of cases, be able to last 90 minutes. Like, Kieran Tierney could be one injury away from being out for 4 or 5 months, like.
Aye, I mean, I've said that. I mean, don't get it. We've been out of time here about signing Tierney. I thought he had a great season for his last season too. I hope he's a great season for his this season. But that's always just there, isn't it? He's always one bad tackle or one bad fall away for a bad injury, and that's always got to be a kind of worry. But I mean, is it a case as well if we had got somebody? I mean, I like that Will Ferry. I definitely do. I'd actually probably rather have him than Sarachi, to be honest. See the more I've watched Will Ferry and that, I think I'd maybe even rather have him than Sarachi, which again was another clusterfuck idea with Celtic were quite right not to get involved in. But see if we had a better backup, take Kieran Tierney, could Tierney get rested a bit more often and be able to play 90 minutes more? Do you know what I mean? When we need
you could stick
games and stuff like that.
Yeah, but you could stick that Will Ferry lad, Mark, in any of the games in Scotland. Any game. League Cup or League. If you think he needs a rest or he's not up to it, you could say, look, starting him today, you know what he's going to give you. Like,
you wouldn't even worry about Will Ferry playing against the Huns or that. I wouldn't have any trouble with that.
Mark, I wouldn't worry about him playing against any team. I genuinely wouldn't. Any team. I think he looks a seriously. You know what you're getting. He looks a seriously decent player for what you want him to do. You're not going to get anything. Not going to be giving you anything fancy, but he's a seriously good at what he does. He's a hard-working guy, and he's a decent footballer. And as I said, look, he knows the league. He knows what's expected if he went to the likes of Celtic. So I think they've missed the trick there because obviously it looks like he's going to Anderlecht now. I think it is. So
is he definitely going to Anderlecht?
Well, it isn't. I haven't seen it that it's done, but they seem to have been kind of close to offering him a deal. But you've only heard him been linked to Celtic. You haven't heard any connections. You know, which is disappointing. Like, you know, and even.
But we're getting linked with that Braga for Hearts again now, David. Would you take him?
I would, yeah. I would, yeah.
I can't see Hearts
They're
selling
not
him
going to
to
sell
either
him. They're
that.
not going to sell him to Celtic.
But I would probably, I wouldn't, but I don't think I'd have him as like a mainstay of the team, Terence. For me, he'd be backup as well.
What I would say, Mark, is the majority of the Celtic players, like the thing that I think people should understand is the Celtic team or whatever. It needs to be a squad, certainly of, if you want to say, for argument's sake, 18 or 19 seriously solid players that you can take him out and put him in, and there's little to no difference. With the exception of, obviously, if someone is a little bit more talented than the other, fair enough. But realistically, you should be able to go, right, Callum, you're sitting down. Your man's gone in. We're resting him. We're gonna bring in whoever it is. We're gonna bring Tierney. You're resting this week. Will Ferrell's coming in. Braga, you're starting. Duran, you're sitting out this week. Whatever it may be. Celtic should be able to be in a position, rather than seemingly in a position where they're flogging the same horse week in, week out.
Mm-hmm.
And then when something does happen, they're struggling.
It keeps things fresh as well, Terence.
But it keeps people on their toes, Mark. Because if I was,
we're needing a full refresh in the team.
because if hypothetical again, if me and you were on the same side, right, and we were, say, for argument's sake, we were both centre forwards, whatever, and one week you were playing and I was on the bench, I'd be chomping at the bit to have a go to get in. And end of next week, if they're saying, look, Mark's got a bit of a niggle, you're going to start, you would be bursting a gut to score 2 or 3 goals and say, no, you can't take me out of this team.
Mm-hmm.
You can't take me out of this team now. And, because I remember saying, like, Paddy Roberts came in that time, James Forrest, they transformed James Forrest.
Set a rock up his arse, done it.
Yeah. Whereas, that's what you need. You need to have a situation where that there's a couple of players that are vying. Like, you have, like, the guys that are, if it's two, like that Will Ferry, if he came in with Tierney, and one can play one week if needs to, and say, okay, Tierney's normally our number one, but this guy comes in and he's not gonna let you down. And the same if it was say they got Braga or whoever it was. Because at the minute, Celtic seem very light on a replacement if someone goes down. Like, if you look at, if one of the centre forwards goes down, if Hoy got a bad injury or Duran got a bad injury, there's no one there. There's no one there. You're looking at maybe Osmond, who I like, or Donny Kenny. I know he's supposed to be going to Bolton, but what I'm saying, at the minute, he's still there.
Aye.
So this is what you're looking at. Again, at the minute, if Tierney gets injured, it means Scales goes to full back, because they don't have anyone else. So then it means you're left with Carter Vickers, who's very injury prone, trusty, and Dane Murray, who apparently Dundee were looking for, but he hasn't gone at the minute. So you're looking at those two. And then the other side, if Alistair Johnson goes, you're left with Obi Donovan and Ralston. So, like, they could have got 2 or 3 guys in the Scottish League, for me, that could have comfortably done a job for Celtic. Comfortably done a job in Celtic. Because I'll be honest with you,
Watson boy that Bobby was mentioned as well, mate. But we spoke about him last season. Who was it? He went to.
I think he was Kilmarnock or something, was he?
Aye, but I think it was a Bolton he went to.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying, Mark. They're going to these, with the greatest respects, teams that are, like, struggling badly. But I don't mean it to be rude in what I'm saying, but, like, I hear so many people going, "Oh, he's no good, sure. He's not. He wouldn't be up to. He hasn't played in Europe. He's not up to European level." Sorry, there are very few players in the Celtic team that are up to European level. So let's not worry about that. Like, that's the least the Celtics worries. They haven't won a qualifier in about 25 years. Like, so saying we need to get players for European football isn't. I always find it a little bit. I'd be kind of going, lads, worry about the league. get good quality in, if you can get a few in that maybe that can help us in Europe, fair enough. But the bread and butter is their bread and butter is in Scotland. I don't like saying it all the time, but it is. And maybe get 2 or 3 guys in that can help you in Europe. But we brought enough tripe in last year when O'Neill had to bring in a few loans near the end of it. None of them were. They were all foreign lads, but they offered little or nothing to the team. Like,
I mean, even who? It's like, right, you score Champions League goals and that, but you're not putting him in, like, you wouldn't call him a Champions League level striker. No offence, you know what I mean? No offence to the guy, he has scored goals in the Champions League, but he's not up in that top bracket. We'll never be able to go out and get the kind of players. You know what I mean? We're looking at hopefully he comes in and improves again, and then maybe he will get a move to a richer club in a bigger league or whatever. That's what Celtic does, and that's your level.
Of course it is.
I mean, your level I've said this for years, Terence, your level for me is right now getting into the Champions League and then just being in that spot to get into the playoff round now. That's what Celtic's aim should be every season. Do you know what I mean? That because of the new format, that middle. We're never going to end up in the top half if it's automatic qualification. The odd year we'll probably end up in the bottom third where you're getting straight out it. But our main aim is to finish in that middle section. That's where it's got to be, and then you can grow from there. Because for me, that's the level that Celtic are at. Well, no, maybe not in the team now, but as a club, the money we're bringing in, the players in that we should be able to go out and buy. Celtic should be making that kind of cut off, making the majority years for me anyway.
Yeah, but as well for that, Mark, for that to happen as well, and it's a very, very fair point, but for that to happen as well, like, it's what we've been talking about since the start. Like, if Celtic continue, and I know they haven't yet, but if Celtic continue to get knocked out at this stage, it becomes harder and harder and harder, because it will come a time where they won't be seeded. You know, there could come a time where they're not seeded anymore, and they do get
I don't know about that, Terence.
Well, okay, maybe that's not the case. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just saying, if they continually keep playing in this and keep getting knocked out, like,
come next year and that, it's even, we've got more qualifiers to play, so it's harder even for next season because it's Scotland's coefficient. But I think Celtic can seed it because do we not still get their legacy points, and that gives us a good boost in it.
Okay, well, if that's the case, I'm obviously wrong.
Something in the chat will probably know Terence.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, then fair enough.
It's going to be harder for next season. I think we're going to have to play maybe even 3 qualifying rounds maybe next summer.
Well, I suppose that's kind of along the lines of what I was trying to maybe mean as well, Mark. I mean, like, all of a sudden it gets harder and harder. Whereas if Celtic are able to qualify this year, and if they did qualify for the Champions League and they did qualify for the knockout stages, it surely benefits them again that it might become a little bit easier. In regards, they might have to play 2 matches instead of 3. I don't know. Maybe it isn't. I know it's the general coefficient, and judging on the other 2 clubs that were playing in Europe recently, that's fairly got the arse kicked out of it anyway. But like,
be honest, Terence, see the 2 Champions League qualifiers, the extra Champions League qualifiers that we're going to have to play. It'll probably be against really low level teams. Do you get what I mean, sir?
Yeah.
For me, it'll be a better part of pre-season, playing stupid games, bounce games, travelling about, just making money off it away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Actually playing competitive matches.
But the only worry you have with that, Mark, is that, for me, is that the current board don't seem to be willing to prepare the management team and the squad even for those games, because is it how long is it, a week, is it 2 weeks away, the game against the Austrian crowd? I mean, do you know it's 2 weeks away, and we've got a manager obviously that's unfortunately in hospital. Whatever has occurred there obviously seems he's been quite sick. We've got a board that just, I don't know. I don't understand that they couldn't have brought in 4 or 5 players And if they brought in 4 or 5 quality players and said, we're probably not going to bring in any more, maybe one, maybe not loan, everyone would have gone, that's a fantastic window. If they had brought in the likes of Doran, Hoy, they brought in the German lad, they brought in Hassan, and suppose hypothetically they brought in that Will Ferrell and whoever it was, and maybe that Arthur is on loan, we'd have all been delighted. We'd have probably just said, "Oh, we'd like maybe another goalie or something," but you'd have been delighted with that. And I don't think any of that was asking too much. Personally, from me, I don't think it was asking too much for them to have done that. That's been my opinion.
Aye, but I mean, it's the same every year, but Terence, isn't it? It's the same
Every year, Mark.
We don't prepare. And there's no excuses for it. There's absolutely no excuses whatsoever for it.
But as I said, Mark, I just can't get my head around the fact that, like, they done nearly as bad as last year in regards to the situation. And they all saw what happened last year. Yes, the team played very poorly. I get that, and I agree with you. But at the same time, we went into the game, a Champions League game, with no centre forward. No centre forward. And it came back to bite Celtic in the backside. And it cost them whatever the Champions League would be, 40 million, 50 million, depending on whatever way you want to look at it. You know, and they seem to be going down the same road. Yeah, they spent a lot of money on 2 centre forwards. I get that. But there's glaring, you know, vacancies, if you want to call it, in the team, and areas that needed to be helped and improved. And it just seems to be, I don't know, neglected, overlooked, can't be arsed. I don't know, whatever the terminology you want to use. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but it's mind-boggling that you'll think within a week or two before the thing, they might get a guy in 2 days before the Champions League game or the last day of the transfer window. They'll be helter-skelter trying to get in these loans left, right and centre.
What helps with Brian Wilson and we know we didn't do things right, we need to improve things and all that, and we've just stumbled back into the same cycle during transfer windows.
Everything he said, if you just listen to his interview and then reverse it, it's exactly where Celtic are now. Just listen to it and then take everything, and then everything he says, just say complete opposite, because that's exactly what the position Celtic are in now. And he said that we weren't going to leave ourselves in this position. We weren't going to do any of this. We weren't going to do that. And they're doing exactly the opposite of it. And it's just, as I said, Mark, if Celtic didn't have the money, and it was 10 or 15 years ago, and they didn't really have huge money, I'd go, where they usually had to sell a big name if they didn't get in and all that kind of stuff. You'd go, okay, I understand you have to shop accordingly. But Celtic have the most amount of money they've probably ever had in their history available to them in their bank. And they just don't seem to be willing to spend it. Whether, as you said at the start of the show, there's someone above the powers to be in the board going, no, you're not spending it. Who knows? But
I mean, every transfer eventually it needs to be signed off by the board. Do you get what I mean? At the board level. So it goes above and beyond, like the CEO and the director of football. But it's just to get signed off. It's just a box ticking, like legal. Do you know what I mean? So that it's all legal and above board, that it needs to be signed off at board level. So,
yeah.
But other clubs, it's a case of, right, there's that deal. They trust the CEO and trust the director of football to have the best deal, and the CFO. They've done their job. All the board needs to do is sign it off, and that's it, done. And I think it must be getting to that level. And then Dermot Desmond's getting involved, unless he's getting involved like at every level. Do you know what I mean? Which is just that never works. And well, we can see that if that's what's happening, why it's not working.
Yeah, but it's
Just see who's
it's
got to
very
have the
frustrating. Like,
see who's got to have the authority. Do you know what I mean? That's part of his remit. Him
well,
and
this
his
is what the
him
people are employed
financially
for, Mark.
wise.
This is what they're employed for. Like, so
Aye.
this is their. Do you know? I mean, you may as well take the individuals out of the role if it is going to be the majority shareholders going to make all the decisions. Then just don't have these people even don't even have them in a position of involving in the transfer. Just let the so-called the man who owns the most amount of shares in the club, let him deal with the transfer. So if it's going to go that silly, like, I know that's a really stupid statement, and I've been
No, I know. Oh, no,
very
I know what
I've
you
been
mean,
very
but aye.
facetious in what I'm saying, like, but like, like, if these guys are there to do a job, let them do the job. But like you said, Mark, how can you sign off if that's the case, and an 11 million one, which seemed to be done like in a click of a finger overnight nearly? I was like, bloody hell, did he really sign? As opposed to the German lad or Hassan or any of the other lads. I don't know. And you wonder then, is it not that it should be any worse because he's not technically would be massively involved in it, even though Maloney seemed to suggest he was obviously with Martin O'Neill in his position he's in now in hospital. But I still don't think that has any massive bearing on it. I think O'Neill would still, he's the manager. He's going to manage the players that he's given. So I don't know where to go, Mark. I really don't. But it's very, very frustrating. I have to be saying.
I mean, again, we said at this time last year, or maybe in a couple of weeks' time, we'll all be sitting here saying, "Oh, what we're moaning about." Do you know what I mean? But ah, I'm just hoping that that's a case of the deals that they've supposedly got in the pipeline come off. Do you know what I mean?
I do, but Mark, well, like my big fear of it is like I managed to get to watch a lot of the game even though I was traveling. I literally left as the game kicked off and got in the door as the game was just finished. But I managed to watch a lot of the highlights of it and the whole lot. Like they were they were poor enough in a lot of cases. They were all, they should be better. But like my worry is what are you go waiting? You're waiting 3 or 4 games into the season and then bringing a guy in. You've had all summer to do this, like.
Aye.
You've had all summer because like, you're talking about a lad coming from Hassan Salad. He's coming from Egypt, or sorry, he's coming from Spain. He's coming in. You're talking about again new league, new climates, new cultures, new everything. Right? You're the same. You're the same with say the German lads, Bauer lad. Same with him. You're coming in. I know it's not a million miles away, but you're coming to a different country. You're coming to a different environment. These are all things that the reason is for pre-season. You get these people in, you get them bedded in, you get them meeting their
Get them
teammates.
settled, just let them
Yeah,
settled.
settled.
Even
Yeah,
even on a personal level, kind of thing,
yeah,
terms.
exactly. Getting them to meet lads, maybe going out when it's pre-season, doing their doing their early trainings, doing their bits and pieces, meeting, going out having a coffee, going out for a game of golf, going out doing whatever they normally do, feeling out, get to know each other. Whereas nowadays, if these guys are coming in, they're coming in already in the business end of the thing. They're coming in where the season's already kicked off. The Champions League game is around the corner. There isn't as much time for, I don't know, getting to know each other, so to speak, because you're so engrossed in your job of training and doing the bits and pieces. I don't know. I just find it all. I find it all baffling as to why it's taken so long to do these
I
things.
mean, look. I mean, playing devil's advocate here, right? It's like people are saying that the German the Bauer's going to be Engels' replacement. Surely Celtic aren't they? I mean, Engels is getting it going. There's no doubt about it. He's told Celtic that he wants to leave. No, look, officially kind of thing, but he's told them that
Yeah.
he wants to leave. And well, his agent, whether it's West Ham or whoever it is, they kind of thing. But it looks as if it's got to be West Ham. But his agent will find him a club. He'll find him somebody that's going to pay that money before the window shuts. So surely to God we're no waiting and Engels going to pull the trigger on signing Bauer. Because that, I mean, people say, oh, you bring players in and that, but to replace players before they leave and that, right? But that's not really feasible until you know for definite that somebody's gone. Do you know what I mean? Because Engels could say, right, I want out, I'm going to West Ham, blah blah blah, I want to go to West Ham, right? We go and sign Bill, and then all of a sudden the Engels deal doesn't happen. Nobody wants to sign him and stuff, so we're left with Engels and this new guy both in the team. Whereas that's no what ideally that isn't what would have happened. So it's kind of juggling Bawz a bit, but if Engels has told them he wants out, his agent will make sure he's going to go. Do you know what I mean? He'll find him a club somewhere that's going to pay the money Celtic want. That's just the nature of the game. And now, again, if they're just waiting on this getting finalised, and then they're going to say, oh, change that, is it Padaron or Paderborn or something, the team that he plays with. They got to say to them then, alright, there's that extra 300 grand. You've got to be like, what the fuck? How are you playing at here?
But if that is the case, Mark, to take one of your terminologies, that's absolute piss or pish, whatever way you call it.
Aye.
Do you know? It's just, do you know? But that's what I'm saying. I can accept that, Mark. 15 years ago, when Celtic didn't maybe have the money. 20 years. Celtic have that money, that there is no problem with them taking in that guy, that poor lad. They're clearly not going to learn their lessons. If Engels wants to go and he wants to move, and fine, no problem with it, and he wants to move, fair enough. Celtic can get the right money for him, grand, let the guy go. But to be holding on to a guy who doesn't want to be there, if they want to learn a valuable lesson, because they had it with Edwards, they had it with Ayer, they had it with a couple of guys before the time when they were going for the 10 in a row, and it went pear-shaped. So if guys get in their head that they want to go, the same way that the German lad has in his head that he wants to leave them to come to Celtic, it's going to be the same situation if Engels is in his head he wants to go to West Ham or he wants to go to whoever it may be. Get the offer, get the best offer, and go.
Even looking at it this way, Terence, right, we've been scheming out to strengthen the midfield, right? So even if Engels wasn't leaving, why are we not still signing this bill to strengthen the full midfield department?
Oh, 100%, because he seems to be like a holding midfielder. We don't have one.
Throw him into the mix kind of thing. It's just this kind of one in, one out.
Well, Bernardo's gone. Why can't he come in for Bernardo? Why can't he come in for Bernardo regardless of Engels, as you said?
I don't know what went wrong there.
Oh, but obviously, look, there's obviously a couple of managers didn't really see eye to eye with him, but I liked him as a player, but obviously he fell off the charts. But as you're saying, Bernardo's gone. So you're now midfielder less. So why can't that German lad come in for him? He doesn't have to wait for Engels. Like, you can't just say he's going to come in when Engels goes and he can take Engels' place. You know, I mean, he can still come into this. He can still come into the squad regardless of whether Engels is there or not. As you said, Bernardo's gone. You're already one midfielder down, so he can come in no problem, and he can compete with Engels if Engels doesn't leave.
Mm-hmm. Aye.
You know, so
aye, you're strengthening the midfield department.
Yeah, he can compete with McGregor. He might be the fella. He might be your your vital piece of the jigsaw that he can play that holding midfielder role. Maybe that's his preferred position. Maybe something that he really likes doing. You know, and it just, I don't know. It seems very amateurish. As I said, we're not going buying him until we get rid of him. Right, lads.
That is kind of what it looks like to an extent, isn't it, Terence?
Hugely, massively, it looks like all that. It looks like that, unbelievably so. Like that, it's literally a case of, well, if we sell Engels, we'll buy that guy. But if we don't sell Engels, we won't buy that guy. You're like, Jesus, really? Like that? That's just, you're there looking at them, going like, how much do you get paid for your job? Like, if that's what you're going to do, like, I could do that. Like, you know, any of us could do that and go, well, unless we sell him, we won't buy him. And if we do sell him, then we will buy him. And he'll come in there to and you're going like that, you've 120 million or whatever is in the bank. or 100 million or over 100 million in the bank. Like, he's 5 million. 5 million is what he is like. Like, look,
Well, we wasted that on Ballywasher, didn't we?
yeah, and there's three or four. There's three or four. There's three or four guys. There's Naroski, Alma, the Japanese lad's gone, Bernardo's gone. There's 4 wages alone. Surely them 4 wages alone would be ample enough to pay whatever the wages your man's going to be on. If not, money left over as well. So
the money we've shaved off the wage bill this summer, that's got to be a hefty wage. I mean, what is it altogether? What is it, about 16 players or something that have actually left us this summer?
16 they said.
Loans or whatever, but I mean, and we brought in 3
2.
if you want to count the Ox into it.
Yeah. What was that? Was that really a? Was that really a? You know? Was that really a sign? Because I don't like with regards to his goal against, was it Livingston or something like that. Other than that, really, like, I mean, he played 20 minutes of the last 6 games in the split. That's all he played. 20 minutes. So, you know, obviously the manager didn't necessarily fancy him for whatever reasons. Maybe he wasn't up to speed. Now, maybe the full pre-season, you might see a better player, because for me he was okay. He certainly wasn't a standout last season for me by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
So I wonder, was it easier to just give him the extra year contract and try and appease people at the start of it or something? I don't know, but
maybe it was arranged at Luke McCowan's wedding.
Maybe. You wouldn't know. Maybe anything is possible. They do things in the showers, they do things in weddings, you know, so.
Did you not see that in the forum last week?
No.
Oh, the wee boy posted in about all the stuff that he was at Luke McCowan's wedding, and he had the video or tapes and all that, how Callum McGregor was telling Celtic who to sign, and it was him he got KT to come back, and it was him that wanted Luke McCowan signed and wanted Ralston to get a new contract and all this. Absolute madness, absolute craziness. Just mind the wee burger bar, mind the wee boys. It was worse than that for the absolute mentalness of it.
But you're listening, I'd say now, complete drunk talk more than anything, but.
Oh, no, he was pure adamant about that it was happening and that, and it was just that Cal McGregor is like, he's telling Celtic what players they should be signing basically, and who should be getting new contracts and all that. Well, I heard Tony talking about a green bottle. That was his name, Green Bottles.
Oh yeah, I've seen that name. Yeah. Well, if that is the case, if that was the case, then that says more about the powers to be at Celtic than anything. But yeah, look, I don't know, but I kind of, as much as I look every day at the Celtic transfer stuff, I kind of look at it and just kind of go, yeah, okay, they haven't signed anyone. They're not going to sign anyone at the minute, because that's the way I feel about it. Like,
same old regurgitated nonsense terms.
Oh yeah, every day.
We're stepping up our interest, we're showing interest, we're putting in this bid, we're putting in that bid. And, I mean, it's like, see, before the internet, you used to only have to listen to the shite day by day when you get a newspaper. back in the teletext days, you used to look up the rumours and that on teletext and stuff like that. But now, because of the internet, you just go to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just rumours and made up nonsense and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and just I don't know, and I mean, unfortunately as well, the apart from that embarrassing mini statement, if you want to call it, it's pretty much standard radio silence from the powers to be in Parkhead, like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're letting it for Martin O'Neill to discuss it and Martin O'Neill to talk about it. And I know that that's probably part of the gig being the manager and X, Y, and Z. But obviously, with him now out of the frame, as we said, we don't know how long. We don't know. I don't know what happened to him. I hope he's okay. But it doesn't look like he's going to be at the match. He won't be available this weekend for the game. they're not. Sean Maloney said he's not sure. It's going to be taking it day by day. So whatever is happening, obviously, I imagine it's a serious enough thing. But that being said, the powers to be at Celtic still don't come out and say this is what's happening. Do you know, like as much as it pains me to say it, but
we're talking about Martin O'Neill.
No. I'm talking about players and stuff. But no, definitely not about Martin O'Neill. But like as much as it pains me to say it, the crowd across the city, like regardless of what level came in, but like they were linked to the player, and probably 3 days later the player had signed. Now, you people might open to the interpretation as to how good or bad or indifferent the player is. I get that. I get all that. But what I'm trying to say is, and they were that whoever's there. What was the Cavendish? Is that his name? The head man for them or something? You would regularly hear him speak and say what their signings, what they're trying to do, and all the rest of it, and all their things. You just feel a Celtic. You just think like it's Groundhog Day. Here we go again. It can't be as bad as the last time, and then you go, well, it's actually worse. Like I'd rather they had no window in January, because there's no point even bothering looking at the window in January. And if they can't even get it done normal in summer, they have no chance of doing anything in January, and we'll even wreck our heads even more.
Me and you are old enough to remember when there was no windy.
Oh yeah.
You should either go back to that, which probably wouldn't help in this modern mad game of football, wouldn't help. There's that rule about only playing for 2 clubs out of 3 in a season kind of thing. But I think Terence, I would go with like just a summer window. Do you know what I mean? Closes in maybe the beginning of September or something like that, and that's you. But I would have a window in January that you can sign a player, but you need to remove a player for your squad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're signing a player because he's broke his leg, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
That kind of thing.
But the thing about it, Mark, is it's just, as I said, where it's so annoying is like this is not a difficult process. It's not, and the problem is, like you said, Celtic are doing the hard part of the process well, and they're making a complete arse of the simple part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when if any of the lads on the forum or on the live chat here, any of the lads if any lads like me play golf, you hit a great drive, you hit a super shot into the middle of the green, you've done the hard work, and then you take 3 putts. You're like, what a moron. That's what it's.
That's a good analogy, Terence, to be fair. I mean, you get back over the years and look back in your history, transfers and everything. As soon as you've agreed terms with the player, you know that the deal's only going to be a couple of days. That was the hold up. Do you know what I mean? That was the hardest bit. Because the club was just a couple of days of negotiations, and boom, price agreed, and that was it, finalised.
Yeah, you're 100%, Mark. You're 100% right, Mark. It was always the opposite. It was always a case of trying to negotiate the wage with the player was the hard part. And that was always the sticking point. Whereas Celtic have managed to absolutely make a complete arse of it and managed to make the other part the hardest part. That's how bad they are. Like
maybe they've upped the wage structure, Terence. We've kind of wanted me to do for ages, and that's why we're getting the kind of the personal agreements with players and that done quicker.
But they should be, Mark. You can't stay stagnant like.
No, you're preaching to the choir there, Terence. I've been shooting about that for years. I've got no problems with the money Celtic spend. It's the way they spend it. Transfer fees they don't really bother me, because that's just between clubs and how to deal with how long in contracts and all this kind of stuff. Obviously, the more money you spend on top end players, kind of thing, but basically you can always pick up bargains in the transfer market, as we've seen. But if you offer higher wages, better wages, you've got more of a chance of getting a player.
Definitely, and then obviously a better quality player.
Aye. Because other clubs are wanting players that half the wage bill. They're wanting to balance the books, so maybe the players are a bit surplus to them, but he's a good wage. So they'll take maybe 3 or 4 million just to get his wages after books.
Yeah. So yeah, as I said, Mark, I don't know.
And Celtic, they seem to have a tendency of announcing stuff on a Friday. And every Friday it comes in the last couple of weeks, and we thought this will be, and it's just again for Big Casper, there's been nothing.
Oh yeah, listen. As I said, I've resigned myself to defeat. And the thing that makes it funny to me, Mark, is the people who are at the business end of this. Like, I, I don't know. They must live in the North Pole or South Pole or somewhere like that where there isn't anyone around, because they cannot be oblivious to this harmony that's amongst the fans. I mean, you saw two friendlies at home where certainly the second one, the AC Milan game, would have been pretty much packed out, and there was a hell of a lot of empty seats. The Middlesbrough game was an embarrassment,
Hmm.
but it was people just saying, "No, I've had enough. You're asking me for money for everything, for every single thing, but you're not putting anything back into the club. You're not putting anything back into the team."
Aye,
And
pre-season
people
friendlies.
are,
It's ridiculous to charge money for tickets. I didn't even watch any of them turns because
no, no.
years ago I was stupid enough to pay into them years ago, Terence and that. But see now I'm like, it's basically a training game. It's basically like watching Celtic training. And really, no, I've not get any hope. It's not really that. It's not really that interesting to watch. It's just played like a bounce game or like a testimonial. You
Oh,
can't,
and I,
you can't judge a player on pre-season. You really can't, because every player's at different levels of fitness and all this nonsense. Do you know what I mean?
oh yeah, but for me, Mark, you're 100% right. But for me, those games would have normally had very, very good attendances from Celtic.
Aye.
Whereas now people have obviously decided that enough is enough. And I mean, if Celtic if Celtic buy players for the squad, which they should have been doing and they haven't been doing, if they've done that,
Good night, McMahon. Nice to join us. Thanks again, mate. Good night.
you're going to get people. You're going to get people happy. You're going to get people coming to the games. You're going to the, as I said, the game on Saturday was a for a large part was a fairly dour, or Monday I should say, was a very dour game. That's my opinion on it. You know what I mean? Um, I didn't think the style from what I saw had changed drastically. Maybe they had got in the second half. They maybe moved the ball a bit quicker, but you I don't know. I think they needed,
It was still a bit horseshoeish, wasn't it, Ter?
yeah, very much so. Too much of this around the back, passing around the back. But this is this is where I without going repeating myself continuously. This is where new players freshen this up, and allows everyone. I find it very hard to understand, Mark. I really, really do. You know.
Aye, Terence, fresh ideas and
Yeah,
things like
and it's,
that.
I mean, we're playing Kilmarnock now the weekend, and
A
I
new,
think the next two games are away.
but I mean, first game of the season, the league flag getting put up and all that, and then again that was just the atmosphere was like I mean the boys and that and the Green Brigade are in together now, but that was it. That was all you could hear out of anything, even watching it on the telly, and even when you were looking about, just the fans were just sitting watching the game. It's kind of they need and a few new faces, a wee bit of sharpness, a wee bit of freshness in that team would have gave the full place a lift. Do you know what I mean? Just something different.
Yeah, well, but we were the other side of it, Mark, is they were everything that's been promised per se at the start of the season and before the season started. Very little of it has been transferred over. Like you obviously they were promised a lot number of signings, quality signings, that hasn't materialised. We were told that it was going to be a big change in style, and it was going to be moving the ball much quicker, much faster, quicker forward. That hasn't materialised. You're kind of going like a lot, like it just seems to be rinse and repeat, like it's the same stuff from last year, like, and you're like going, lads, the pace of play, the first game of the season, all of it, you're like, come on, guys, we can't watch 30 odd games or whatever is in the league of this nonsense. Because you're going to.
I seen a wee clip of thing today. It was that wee Chicharito, mind the wee Mexican P for Man United.
Yeah.
And he was talking about his first training session at Man United, and Paul Scholes said to him after it, I'm kind of verbalising or whatever you call it. He said, "See, when you see me putting my head up, you run where you want to, and I'll make sure you get the ball." And he says, "That's what I done." And every time, and the wee Chicharito says, every time that's what I done. When he looked up, I ran, and the ball ended up falling at my feet. Can you imagine Cal McGregor saying that to Big Casper the other day?
I know, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's the I mean, I'm not saying McGregor's up there with like Paul Scholes for passing it, but can you imagine that's the difference.
But the intensity in training, though, Mark, can't be, and the intensity in training has to be what they're doing in the game, because you can't. There's no one going to tell me that their training intensity is through the roof, and then they come to match day, and then they play at the pace they play it for a large part of the game, because as I said, you were always told you trained how you play. So, like, if you're training and it's pedestrian to say the least, and it's just strolling around, going through the motions, you tapping the odd quick pass here and there, but nothing major, no huge running off the ball. You come to the match day, that's what you're going to do.
Aye.
You can't just expect to go, well, we always train this particular way of training, and then go to match day and go, right, we can just click a button and turn it on. No, like you train with the same levels of intensity that you expect to play a match in. I mean,
your KTs, Scott,
yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean. KT learned how to train for Scott Brown, didn't he? He kind of copied him, even doing in Arsenal. Mind it was snowing, and he turned to stop his T-shirt and shorts and stuff like that, just to be right. But that for me, that should be the kind of level.
And that's what Roy Keane would have been a prime example of that. Like when Roy Keane, you hear people saying when he trained, his logic was, we're training and you put everything into training. If it's a 5-a-side, we want to win the 5-a-side. I just don't think that this Celtic squad train with intensity. I could be wrong. I don't think they do, because they don't bring it to a game day.
We've not got enough players with that kind of intensity in the team terms.
But not. I get.
I mean, I've said that 100 times. We miss Scott Brown so badly in the Celtic team.
Yeah. But in saying that, Mark, and you're right, we don't have that. But like, there's enough coaches there to go. If fellas they're doing a drill, and fellas are kind of running along, jogging along, doing the drill, and they're talking to each other, like, you go, lads, hold on a minute. This is training. I'm expecting you to be bursting a gut here for 90 minutes, like. This is not like going two of us running along here, waving our arms in the air, hardly doing the exercise you're asked to do, and not even running out to the corner or whatever. I don't know. But, like, as I said, you train how you play. And the game on Saturday was, for large parts of it, was exactly like watching the same as last year. And, like, Celtic were, what it was, 7 minutes away from losing that league last year. Do you know, it could have been a very, very different season for Celtic last year. Thankfully, it wasn't. But I just don't think any lessons have been learned on that. I don't think any lessons have been learned in the transfer market. I just think that they feel that they do just enough to get away with it. And I don't know. I find it very hard.
Seen somebody further up the page here, they were talking about switching to a 3-5-2. No, I wouldn't do that. I don't like it. I never did like it. I think it's too easy to get caught in the counter attack with big long diagonal balls up the wing. But I've said it for. I don't know why Celtic stopped playing the 4-2-3-1. I really don't. I think again, even the new the players we've got available. You just, I mean, put McGregor and Engels in the two, in the pivot and two. You've got
I know. I'd be the same. I'd be the same boat as you.
Even Negrin's your 10. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, two new wingers, you have your big Casper up front. I mean, that would let us control the midfield a lot more with that pivot of McGregor and Engels playing in there.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
4-3-3 is just, I don't understand why they keep going with this. I know Nancy tried to change it and it was a bit too drastic. And when Martin Neal came in, he said he didn't really want to change it that much last season. But again, what we're talking about, Terence, a change of formation. You bring the players in early doors, get them used to it during pre-season, and then there you go. So you're ready to fucking fly out the traps with a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, and this is it, Mark. I'd be the same boat as you, like. But I like, we're all sitting here. I'm sure the lads in the live chat, the lads in the forums, most other Celtic fans around are going like, how is this? How have we got to this again? Like, you know, it just seems to be mind-boggling, to be perfectly honest, that Celtic have put themselves in this predicament. Like, you know, and it's very annoying and disheartening. Like,
we've kind of fell into a bit of twilight zone as well, Terence, right? With the fact that there's still turmoil behind the scenes, right? We've got an interim chairman. Do you know, for as long as he's been there, do you know what I mean? An interim chairman's meant to be there for a wee while to steady the boat and waiting on somebody else coming in, right? We've got a CEO that's no fit for purpose, no matter what, right? He could be the nicest guy in the world, which I don't think he's got that kind of personality. He's failing at major, I don't know, is it KPIs, would you call them KPIs, or targets, or whatever you want? He's failing at major targets for Celtic. And we've got a manager that's 74-year-old, and he's only realistically he's only going to be here for a year. Are Celtic the new actively planning what's going to be happening next summer when Martin Neal leaves?
No, they're not. Mark, Celtic didn't plan for Martin O'Neill leaving last season. You know, they brought in the majority shareholder brought in someone that he wanted, not the best person for the job. They brought in someone who they wanted, and maybe behind it also brought in someone that he wanted, but also knew would cause an irk to the Celtic fans, and obviously Robbie Keane, because of his previous management's team. And so, like, but Mark, what happens if Martin O'Neill decides that he can't come back to management? He's in hospital. We don't know what it is. As I said, please God, he's okay. But he's gone in and he's had a procedure, is what they've said. And he's not around this weekend. Sean Maloney has confirmed that, pretty much. Like, who's to say?
I thought it was taking it day by day. We'd see.
Well, this is what they're saying, but apparently Sean Maloney doesn't think he'll be available for the weekend. He said, I don't think he's there for Sunday, but it'll be a day-by-day thing. But I don't know what the situation is with O'Neill, but as I said, hopefully it's nothing serious. But that in itself, Mark, with everything that's going on, and the stresses and strains and the pressure and of him constantly every day in training and in the thing going, what story of players, what story, blah, blah, all the rest of it. The guy's 74. Do you know, the guy's 74. Celtic will not have done an iota of whoever's going to come in next year as a new manager. They didn't do it this year. They're not going to do it next year. They're more likely, Mark, to just go if something happened or
You don't
anything
think
happened. Just give it to
it'll
it.
be Kieran McKenna?
No, but they'd more likely just give it to Sean Maloney because he's there already.
No, no chance.
Would you put it past him? I'm not saying he's the right man for the job, but would you put it past him?
I've still got, I don't know, Terence, just because everything is so short term. I've still got a sneaky suspicion that there's something going on behind the scenes. I don't know what. I could speculate and.
No, I know what's going on behind the scenes, Mark. Fuck all.
No, you know what I mean.
I
Actually,
do, yeah.
how the club's ran or control of the club or however you want to put it, because just everything is just so short term in new terms. An interim chairman, Martin O'Neill for a year. Do you know what I mean? Oh, this kind it's just.
Mark, there's no vision in that club whatsoever. There's no vision. There's no vision in that club whatsoever. They don't they hardly look to tomorrow, let alone next week. Instead of next year. Whereas other clubs will have probably their template laid out as to what they're hoping for from this year, what their expectations are, what their goals are, and what the club's path is in the next 12, 18, 24 months. Celtic seem to be literally going day by day and saying, Jesus, turn up to work and see what happens. See who's here.
Big clubs plan a lot longer in front than that, do you know what I mean?
Oh, they do, yeah, but I'm saying they know exactly what they're going to be doing.
I've told you before some of the stories Ed 2 used to tell us about Chelsea. Chelsea tracking 14-year-old players in South America and did plans to sign them when they was 19 and 18. Do you know what I mean? That's the way Chelsea used to work. Scouting anywhere in the world for young players and watching them just progress for they were 12 to 16, 17 and see how they were going. Which is madness.
But Mark, like them or don't like them, or say you're using Chelsea as an example, but that's how proper football clubs are run. That's how proper businesses are run. Celtic is a business. Celtic is a football club. But as I said, Martin O'Neill came in last year as an interim manager. And one manager was apparently, from what we would believe, was going for the job, was linked to the job, was linked to getting the job, and interviewed for the job, and that was Robbie Keane. One manager. And they knew that Martin O'Neill was stepping in for Wilfred Nancy when he came back in the second time. They had a number of months, could have been even 6 months, before Martin O'Neill, the season finished. And eventually, I think, because of the sheer backlash of Robbie Keane coming in, they had no option. The man had no option. Dermot Desmond, Michael Nicholson, all the rest of them, whoever it was, they had no option. And they turned to O'Neill. And I imagine O'Neill had no interest in coming back. And that's been all honest truth, Mark. And they were like, well, we have no one else and they had no other choice but to announce him that's ridiculous. Celtic should have had 3 or 4 or 5 managers interviewed for that post. That they didn't need Martin O'Neill to come back.
Aye. Again, Terence, that's what I mean. I get so short-sighted, so...
It's just amateurish, Mark. That's all it is. There's no director of football. We speak about that on every podcast. There's no structure there. There's no nothing. It seems to be a case that 1 or 2 people make the call for everything. And in a lot of cases, they are not qualified to make the call for everything. Why, as we said, the director of football, he could be, if there was a director of football in play there now, they could be someone that's looking to identify players, looking to identify a new manager for next season, when we know Martin O'Neill will be gone. All these things work in progress. Whereas Celtic seem to do stuff next week for today. They're so far off it. It's not even funny. And it's you don't expect them. I don't expect them to do anything positive. Like when Hoy signed and you sent me the picture, I genuinely thought it was a joke. Like, because I did, because I didn't believe it, like that they'd actually, one, had paid that money, and two, he'd signed. Because they to me, they come across such an amateur run football club.
It shocked me, Terence. It shocked me that it was done, and it was done so quickly.
And then when you go back then and you see that, you think, oh, lovely, they're after getting themselves sorted here, and then it goes back to the norm, and you think, there we go.
Aye, you think, oh, this is the start of the snowball. There's the main man in, so now it's just like filling in the other pieces of the jigsaw.
Yeah, and then a week or two later, you go, here we are, back to reality, back to the same nonsense, and that's what it is. Crying out for players, quality players, to come in, and there's just zero chance.
We're negotiating. We're working on it. Just the process.
There must be like that clip, that snippet I sent you, where your man said, we'll give you, negotiating you, we'll give you a packet of crisps each and a can of Diet Coke or something. That's what must be the stumbling block or something, because I don't know. I just said, I'm sure, you know.
Every team negotiates transfer fees. Every team negotiates. Every team's wanting the most money they can get out of it.
Yeah, but just give and take.
Aye. Do you know what I mean? And as I said earlier on, it's like somebody comes in for Engels. Celtic say, we want £25 million for him. Oh, we'll give you 18. No, we want 25 million. Would you take, right? And then maybe come up, will you take 23? No, look, we want 25 million, and that's it. So that's it then. Clubs play hardball. But they maybe, I mean, Ipswich maybe have come in for Maeda, and Celtic have maybe said to me, look, just if you get an offer you want, we'll not be minded the wee crack about, they maybe want to lower their price, which was just a joke off the cuff comment, get blew to the post as usual with Celtic fans. But maybe if Celtic could have made a arse of themselves and held it and tell Ipswich, no, we want 15. No, we want. But they've maybe came and went with Ipswich a bit because Maeda wanted it away. He eventually helped us out last season. He stuck, do you know what I mean? Maybe give him that wee kind of, right, we'll take 10 million for you. Maybe that's what happened, I don't know. So, but that's how negotiations work. But no fucking for weeks, Terence, our price negotiations.
But that's what teams will obviously mark. Well, clubs will just go, look, forget about it. We're not entertaining this anymore. This is just nonsense. There's going to be other clubs interested in players, and they're just going to go, look, we've other alternatives. We'll go elsewhere.
We want 12 million. Oh, we'll give you 8. No, we want 12. Oh, we'll give you 8.2. I bet. Do you know what I mean? If you're treating up with things like that, teams are going to say, no, away you go. Do you know what I mean? And it just comes across as so amateurish. It really, really does.
But surely, like, if you're Celtic's position to put these guys, obviously they don't. It nearly, even though they're there a while, you feel like like they're on it's like job experience or something. They're in there to do or something. Do you know what I mean? Like in their transition year or something. But like, you know, you're there going, if that German crowd said we want 5 million for Bauer, and Celtic go, we'll give you 4.2. No, I actually said 5. Okay, I'll give 4.3. And two bags of potatoes and 2 cans of Diet Coke. They're like, no, still want 5. But like Celtic should be able then to say to them, Grant, even if they say, is there no negotiating there? Is there anything of coming down? I don't know. They might have said this, and the crowd might have said, we want 5 million. But then surely Celtic just go, Grant, we'll give you 5 million, but his sell-on clause is now not 20%, it's only 10%.
Aye.
Or whatever it may be. Rather than saying, well, we'll give you 4.5, 4.3 and you can have 50% sell-on clause. They just go, we'll give you 5 million, but it's only 10%.
Aye,
or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Aye, that's what I'm saying. It's all part of the kind of negotiations. But they shouldn't take this long.
But obviously, Mark, they're so bad at it. They're clearly so bad at it. Like, because he's been linked with Celtic for a number of weeks now. That Hassan lad, the Egyptian lad, has been linked with Celtic, and you're hearing that the terms are agreed with him, the terms are agreed with the German lad. They're agreed weeks ago, and they still can't manage to get it over the line, which to me is baffling. Because, as you said, if they say that the terms are agreed and the contracts agreed, the player's happy for the wage to be given that they've accepted. They're happy to be given the number of years that a contract is for. So it's just down to agreeing the price with the club, like. And I just like you, Mark. I find it very, very hard to get it into my head that it's the way it is at the minute. I really do.
Especially Terence, as we're saying, if they're haggling over 300 grand or whatever it is for that Bauer.
And that's the general reports. As I said, I could be very wrong, but that's the general reports I've heard. Like,
that's what I've been saying, aye. But that's what they were saying for weeks, Terence. That's how when he put in the transfer request, and as I said, he's waived any rights to cut the transfer fee, so that should have balanced that out, surely. So what's the hold up now?
That's what I'm saying. But sure, it wouldn't put anything past me, Mark, to think that even if Celtic had done that, they've obviously. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But it baffles me. But I just don't understand how they just can't say, "Grand, 5 million. He's given up he's waived his whatever rights to the thing. That should cover that goal." And say to them, "Grand, it was 20%. We're going to bring it down to 15% now, or whatever it is for the sell-on fee, or 10%, or if there is one at all." There normally is, I know there is, but like, I don't know. Thank God I've no hair anyway.
So what do you think for Sunday?
Well, it's thankfully the pitch looks immaculate. I've seen the pictures of the pitch. It looks fantastic.
It looks a million times better than the Kilmarnock pitch is for donkey's years, didn't it?
Oh, look! It looks stunning, and look, there's no excuse. We've always argued, or we've always brought the thing in Celtic. We've always struggled in Kilmarnock on the plastic pitch. Yeah, but this pitch is, listen, it's something that everyone has argued for years. So it's a grass pitch. So there's no excuse for Celtic. But you would expect them to win, Mark, now, because that plastic pitch used to be a bit of a leveler. But you're playing on a normal quality pitch. There should be no argument with passing. There should be no argument with anything.
It's just a normal away game now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a normal away game as in any of the other SPL teams that with normal grass pitches. So there's no excuse, Mark. Celtic should be winning the game. No question about it. But I don't know. Hopefully they will. Hopefully they will win it. No, win it. So
good to stick one up Neil McCann and all.
Oh yeah, 100%. But that he'll have them fired up because of it being Celtic. And I would just like Celtic to come out to a game fired up as well, and just forward ball. I just like to see the ball. They're having two men up front and the ball going forward. Obviously, they're probably not going to go down that line because obviously I imagine either the Colombian lad Duran or whatever, he's probably going to be on the wing again. Whereas I'd much prefer to see them with two up front. But but look, there's no excuse. Celtic should be winning the game. No excuse for me. That's a given. Like that's a given.
What's your team before we finish up?
Well, it's very limited, but I imagine
it kind of needs to pick itself, doesn't it? To be honest.
Yeah, there isn't really many changes. Obviously, I imagine the back four that started will start. The only likely one would be if Scales came in for Trusty. I don't think he will, but
he's banned. He's still banned here.
Oh, he's still banned. Well, then he definitely won't be coming in. So it's basically the same back four. I think the midfield is probably going to be pretty much the same midfield. I can't see really there been any difference in the team at all, Mark. I don't know who would come in that.
I mean, the bench was poor the other night, wasn't it?
But it's going to be, Mark, when you bring in two players and both of them are starting. You're not, and like one of them is they've come in to replace Maeda, who's left. So it's not like you've kept strength on the bench. Do you know what I mean? You one's gone, one's come in. Do you know? So yeah, no, I would expect Celtic to win, but as I said, they have their strength in depth is weak, Mark. That's my biggest concern. But I would certainly expect them to win. Maybe,
I totally agree with that.
maybe 2 or 3-1.
I'll say 4-1.
Oh, there you go. Bit of positive.
I can't. Come on. If you'd bet Terence 4-0 every time I said it over the last couple of years, we'd probably be up if we put bets on.
I don't bet, Mark. But I get you. I get what you're saying. I look forward. Do you know what you should do now? Out of curiosity, just take note of any of the times that you said 4-0 and it's come up 4-0. I'd be very interested.
Bobby will back me up on this for the last few years. There was not as much maybe last season and the season before where I've kind of been a bit horseshoeish, but under Ange and things like that, I definitely it came up a right few times.
I thought you were going to say horseshite.
No, I will horseshoe, whatever you want to call it. We need to get away from that. We need to just stop Cal McGregor dictating the game.
But I think though, Mark, it's a very fair point what you're saying there. But I think it's one of the main problems, one of the main issues is Callum McGregor in the role he's in.
Mm-hmm. Aye.
I think if Callum McGregor was further up the pitch, it would negate that, and you had a proper person who could have that dictating midfielder. Whether it is that German lad or something like that, I don't know, but that the ball gets forward quicker. No, there's also an emphasis on the centre backs, and that need to be, if they're like it's taking it out and stuff, that they're getting it forward a lot quicker. The full backs are getting it forward a lot quicker. I just love to see it getting moved quicker out to the wide men and letting them attack, whereas it's just very pedestrian at the minute. But
it's back to the thing as well, Terence, we need better wingers, and hopefully if you've got better wingers making space, when McGregor see the passes now, or is he just too set in his ways to?
I think he's way too set in his ways.
You know what I mean? But to see a winger making a move and spot that pass like he used to be able to do, quite just nonchalant. Do you know what I mean? That was part of his game, the way he could pick out a pass for you out of nowhere.
He was a brilliant passer, but he was a brilliant passer, Mark, because he played further forward. He was further forward in that position. That, like, he would normally sometimes play on the left side of kind of a forward or three midfielders, or even the front three. And he was excellent. He was a good goal scorer. He was a great eye for the pass. But now he's become like, there's the times he's so far back, he's nearly further back than the centre backs.
Aye.
And
he tried to become a clone of Scott Brown, and they're totally different types of players. Do you know what I mean? But McGregor was a far better technical player than Scott Brown could ever wish to have been. Do you know what I mean? But Scott Brown knew what he could do, and he done it well.
But Scott Brown
he read the game well. He could win tackles. He could read where the ball was going. He was there before. Do you get what I mean? That was his game. McGregor was totally different.
But Scott Brown's game, Mark, was to break up play. Like, that's what he was excellent at. He was very physical. He was a good tackler. He was strong. He was a strong boy. Like, his critique was that he got stuck in, won those big challenges, loved the physicality, and then for the majority of times he passed it forward to what have only been 10 yards to whoever was the playmaker.
He gave it to McGregor to take forward. That's what the kind of day players done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Whereas now McGregor's gone into the role of thinking that he can do what Scott Brown does, and he can't do it.
No, because he could never read the game as well for years. And as soon as Scott Brown left and we went into Europe, McGregor was honking.
I was just going to say that, actually. I was just going to say that he's been one of the reasons, Mark, and not the sole reason, but he's been one of the reasons in regards to his defensive or lack of defensive attributes that Celtic have got some of the pumpings they've got. because we've had no one there. And when Celtic are playing in Europe, in a lot of cases, obviously against all the big sides, Celtic's players are inferior to their players. But we don't play with any defensively minded person in midfield. Callum McGregor can't tackle, just cannot tackle, and we have him. We are expecting him to play that sit in midfield role and make those interceptions and make those tackles. And you're trying to put square pegs in round holes doing that, and it just doesn't work. Like it doesn't work. But
for me, again, turns back to if you're a betting man. I've said this for seasons too. For me, Cal McGregor's a certainty to get booked in Europe.
Oh, he's 100%. Like
he always get caught off the pace. He's always chasing somebody back, and he always makes rash tackles because he gets caught out so often.
He's always caught ahead of the ball. He's always caught ahead of the ball. For a fella who's supposed to be in that whole midfield role, he's always the ball. He for some strange reason, he always seems to find himself ahead of the ball, and then the ball breaks and there's no cover, and he's chasing back. And like you said, in a lot of cases, he fouls or someone else fouls, and it's a yellow card. But like even going into tackles, Mark, he's lost balls in duels, and I think it was Leipzig game or something like that. I remember watching him, and he lost a 50-50 ball and out near their box, and he lost the challenge. They broke, no one back, and they scored. I just don't think he has the mindset ever to be a defensive midfielder. I think his attributes were better going forward. I don't think has it to be a whole midfielder. But the problem is, as long as Callum McGregor's at the club, he will be in that position. Because I don't think any manager is strong enough to say no, I want you further forward. I don't think any manager is strong enough to say that to him. I really do, because all the other managers that have come in, whether it be Rodgers or Postecoglou or whoever it was, they've all played him in this position. And to me, he's nowhere near that role.
It's no matter where the ball is on the park with Celtic, he wants it.
Yeah, and that's not the role. That's not the role of Scott Brown. Would never have been like that. Scott Brown would have just sat there. If the ball came to him, he'd have won the ball. He'd have laid it off. He'd have had the occasion where he'd charge forward.
Or even had a run forward.
I was just going to say he'd have even broke forward to support.
A wee burst forward to push through. McGregor's just. It's hard because it sounds as if you're slagging the guy off, but you're no. It's just, is it an age thing? Is it a mental thing? He's nowhere near the player that he should have been.
I think the move is good.
The deep line playmaker thing and all that, but he's not a deep line playmaker. A deep line playmaker's deep line. Making a play, it's what's on the tin. He's looking for forward passes. He's looking to control the midfield and hurt the other team. And it's just he doesn't do that. He's stuck in a conundrum. He is as a player. He's been stuck in a conundrum for Scott Brown left. He doesn't actually know what he should be doing on that park to that extent. For me, it's just so.
Yeah, to be honest, Mark, he's like
all the time. It's so still and predictive, and you know what's going to happen. He's got the ball. He'll pass it to. He's passing it about with the centre halves. That's not what he should be doing. He should be trying to push the team forward. His first thought process for me should have been, and I know people might criticise us, but this is my opinion, and everyone's opinion is different, and I've always said that they're entitled to it. But for me, like Callum McGregor's first thought process should have been when he gets the ball to the centre backs is to turn and drive forward. That's gone from him. At least Scott Brown, majority of the times, if he got the ball, his first thought might have been to drive forward, drive into midfield, try and commit guys, and then lay it off. But Callum McGregor, the ball comes to him, and his first thought process is he passes it sideways or backwards to Carter Vickers or Krusty or whoever it is. And then he spends the next 5 minutes pointing. He'll pass it to Carter Vickers and then tell Carter Vickers where to pass it.
That's what I'm saying. He'll be pointing everywhere. Like.
Aye, so if Carter Vickers fucks it up, it's down to Carter Vickers, it's no Calm. Do you get what I mean? Why's Cal McGregor no fucking taking the pass that he's telling Carter Vickers today?
Like as I said, it makes no sense because he's 2 yards away from him. He gives him the pass, and then he tells him
Aye,
points to pass
aye.
out to the right. And you're going, why can't you pass out right or left or whatever it may be? Like, I know it's a strange one, but sure. I don't think it's going to change while he's there, unfortunately. And I'm not. I don't mean to be criticising. I don't mean unfortunately. The player, he's been an excellent servant to Celtic, but I just think his effect in the game has diminished over the last number of years for me.
Aye. Honestly, aye. I mean, see Cal McGregor when he was younger and coming into the Celtic team and that. I honestly think when Cal McGregor was younger, maybe like 24, 25.
He was brilliant. He was brilliant.
McGregor could have went to. Actually, McGregor could have went to one of the topish teams down in England and played for a year, and he'd have ended up at one of the top teams either in England or even in Europe.
Oh, he was quality, man.
He really was. I mean, he definitely was. His technical ability, his passing ability, his eye for a pass and everything.
Under the first tenure under Rodgers, he was unbelievable. He was unreal. He was absolutely fantastic. And like that, like I know he came in under Ronnie Delia, but under Rodgers, he was a serious player. Like, and you were thinking like, oh, they're not sure he's going to keep, but he was a serious goal threat. He was a serious passer of the ball. He was driving forward. He had everything. And as I said, I think the detriment to him was going back into the role that he went back into with Scott Brown, whether it was Scott Brown agenting. But
maybe taking on the captain's armband, the responsibility, all that, and everything's just.
But I think it's negated all his actual ability. I don't think I've seen a Callum McGregor that I would have known years ago for the last certainly 2 or 3 seasons easily, if not longer.
Aye.
If not longer, but he doesn't. Like as I said, I think in the last 2 or 3 seasons he's been. If he wasn't captain, would he have been dropped? Probably.
Aye, I'd think so. See if he wasn't captain, and would he still be here?
Probably not. But I don't think. I don't think he's offering a lot to the team, especially midfield and stuff. No, I know he played well last weekend. Don't get me wrong. He had a decent enough game last weekend, but the one off the post he was unlucky with. But that's the Callum McGregor I would have known that would have been driving forward like that. That would have been. He had a cracking shot, and he scored he probably scored more goals from outside the boxes as a midfielder than I had seen in a while. But he's nearly taken that side of it out of his game, and I think, as I said, it's to the detriment of his play. But Callum McGregor for me for the last few seasons has been a shadow of the Callum McGregor that I would have known. That makes any sense?
No, I totally agree with you, Terence. As I said, I just think if Scott Brown left and we dropped the 4-2-3-1, I think he struggled to dominate to be a dominant midfielder. I mean, even at Ibrox, one game he stood up and he ran the show, but how many times did we sit here after derbies and that, Terence, and say, fuck, we got so overrun with midfield today, Cal McGregor get bullied out the game for the full 90 minutes.
Yeah,
for seasons we said that, how lightweight it was, kind of thing. When, again, playing in that position, he's meant to be your muscle in midfield.
And that's one thing Callum McGregor, even in his prime, would never have had. Even in his prime, he would never have been a fella that would have out-muscled guys in midfield. When he was in midfield and when he was at his pomp, Callum McGregor had an eye for a pass, an eye for a goal, and could make the run, could make the pass. He was never a physical guy. He was never any of that. And that's something. Well, like, you remember, like, he always had a Scott Brown there. Even when under Rodgers he had Encham was there. you know, he had other guys there that were there beside him that was what they did, and allowed Callum McGregor to do those runs, to do those passes, to take those shots, to score those goals. All those guys are gone now when he's gone back to that role, and it's just not his role, Mark, and it never has been his role. But they've all persisted. They keep persisting with it, and it will persist till obviously Callum McGregor either finishes at Celtic or moves on. Probably finishes at Celtic more than likely, but that will be his position, because no manager is going to take him out, because none of them obviously feels I don't think are strong enough to do it. And so until then, it's going to be the same rinse and repeat. And as I said, I don't think Alan McGregor has performed anywhere near the level he can perform for certainly the last 2-3 seasons, easily, if not more. And as I said, to repeat myself, I don't think if he wasn't captain, I don't think he'd be playing. That's only my opinion on it. But I don't think he offers a whole lot.
I don't see. Honestly, if he was captain, I don't think he'd be here. And I think he'd be like a maybe, especially last season. I think he'd have for last season falling into this season. I think he'd have became like a James Forrest sideline type of player.
Yeah, that's a very fair call.
Still get something to offer, but you're no one of the main men anymore, Cal. I'm sorry, bud.
But yet he's playing 90 minutes in nearly every game. Like he starts every game. He rarely comes off in any of the games. Last season was slightly different, all right. But again, it's a position that Celtic are crying out for a big physical unit as a holding midfielder. And listen, we've been saying that for God knows how long on this, and it never changes, and I don't think it will change once Callum McGregor's there.
For me, it's a problem. It's been a problem. The whole midfield has been a problem for Celtic. But I still say it for the day Scott Brown left. We've never had a balance in midfield for Scott Brown left. We've never had that proper balance.
Yeah, but you're not going to have that balance, Mark. You're not going to have that balance when you're playing a guy who's not a holding midfielder in the holding midfielder role. Even when Celtic had guys whose position that was, they still didn't play ahead of McGregor. McGregor still played that role. And McGregor for a large part of it struggles in that role. It's fine when McGregor's playing against the majority of teams in the SPL that Celtic are on the front foot. But it's glaringly obvious when it comes to European football. And I'm not talking about Champions League. I'm talking about Europa League, Conference League, any of those. It's glaringly obvious that he's nowhere near that standard for that position. And in a lot of SPL games, I think he's targeted in midfield. I really do.
McGregor?
Yeah, I do.
100%, aye.
Because they know he can't match up with some of the normal clubs. They have big, strong units in there. They mightn't be technically the best footballers, but like they'll out muscle him. They'll out, he can't. As I said, he can't tackle. And I just think until Celtic change that system and put a guy who is that big physical unit in that position, then the balance in the midfield will always be off.
Aye, I totally agree with that. And it's been off for, as I keep saying, for Scott Brown left. And
but sure, he was the last one there, man.
But I mean, Terence, as we see it, it seems to be. It was like so obvious in the derby games where we were on that run and losing derbies. That we were just getting out muscled, out kicked, out fought, out everything. And it's like the wee guy for Hearts that we kind of liked, but he wasn't a very good football player. But that Devlin tear.
Cammy Devlin, yeah. He used to
A wee
bully
nasty
him.
wee. Aye, and he's going to do that again.
Yeah. They'll be just telling him, just stay on him. You'll and that's it. And like that Cammy Devlin fella, I said to you, I know he was likely always going to go there with your man gone there and the whole lot. But I liked him as a player. You knew what you got with him.
Aye, a wee nasty, horrible wee nippy player. Aye, I
Yeah.
mean he's not the best football player, but again, neither was Scott Brown. I'm not
But he
putting
not,
Devlin in the same league as him. I'm talking
yeah.
about the style of their play. He
But they
knows
allow
his
people.
capabilities, and that's what he'll do. He'll be in there and wind people up with wee digs
Yeah.
and wee pushes and pulls and nasty wee things and that. And McGregor can't handle that.
But also, Marks, the individual like him and an individual like Scott Brown, they're the same mold, so to speak. Arguably, quality-wise, slightly different. Fair enough. But by them doing what they do, they allow the other people around them to play. Because the people around them know that, well, if I break forward, I know that Scott Brown's behind me. I know that if you're the thing, Cammy Devlin's behind me. I know if whoever it was, there was a holding midfielder that whoever they are, that they're behind me. Like say the Hibs fella, I know he was linked with Celtic as well. I can't pronounce his name now. He was linked. He's a holding midfielder, strong like tackler.
Aye.
Chima, I don't know.
Aye.
Is it Chimara?
Chimara.
Yeah, something like him. But like they know that they can go forward, that he's sitting there, that that he's behind. Like that, Callum McGregor doesn't have that. He doesn't have that in his. That's not his DNA. He doesn't have that in him. And we can, it is what it is. What it is. Everyone's made different for a reason. Some people are good at one thing, other people are good at other things. What's Callum McGregor's been asked to do, he's not good at. And these other guys, like you said, come derby matches and come like whatever games you're going to see him, and he will be targeted. And the amount of times we say this, even in normal games, that when Celtic lose games, they might have lost, say, a game to whoever it may be. Well, I don't want to say Kilmarnock because they're playing the weekend, but we'll say Hibs or Kilmarnock or something like that. People normally say, they were overrun in midfield. They were, 9 times out of 10, one of the midfielders probably got the man of the match. Some fella who's winning all the tackles and battling and breaking up play and all that. And why? Because they've out-muscled McGregor, they've out-fought McGregor, and they've out-battled McGregor. It was rarely you said that about Scott Brown. It was rarely you said that about Victor Wanyama. It was rarely you probably said that about Encham, to an extent. When you had the likes of, even the likes of your man Baram Kayal when he was in the midfield, you knew what you were going to get with him.
Aye.
You knew what you were going to get with him. You know what I mean?
Beaton. Big Beaton.
He was brilliant. But you see how good he was, Mark, when he's not there. His game management and game reading was superb. He was a terrible centre-back, but he was an excellent holding midfielder because he knew what to do. He got the ball, he broke up play, he was able to tackle, he was a big unit, he was 6 foot plus. He didn't mind.
That was the most important thing. He could read the game, kind of thing. Terence, he knew.
He was brilliant at reading. He was brilliant at reading the game, but he never got ahead of the ball. The ball was always in front of him. A lot of times, he could see the ball. He could see the passes. He was so good. He nearly was one of those guys that was already gone to the position before the ball was passed, to an extent. I thought his game management was excellent. He wasn't blessed with pace, but he always seemed to be in the right place in a lot of occasions. But as I said, he could do that. He was well able to do that. I don't care. We could have the next 50 podcasts and talk about this. Callum McGregor is not a holding midfielder. He will never be a holding midfielder. It's the same way as someone giving me a basketball and going telling me to play basketball. I might go out to the basketball court. I might throw the ball, but I ain't going to be a basketball player. And that's fact. And Callum McGregor is not going to be a holding midfielder. Exactly. Someone telling me to do a slam dunk. Possibly give me a ladder and there's a possibility of doing it. Other than that, there isn't. And Callum McGregor for me is the same. He might have loads of good games for Celtic, but he is not a holding midfielder, and he will never be. And unfortunately, until some manager has the guts to change that, whether that's bringing in someone that is in that position, then it won't change me, and it certainly won't change in Europe. Sorry about all the doom and gloom and all that. No,
That was then. Yeah, is that you happy now? Got it
no,
off
I'm
your
all
chest?
good now. I vented. I'm all good now.
Right, we'll wind that up then if that's all you've got to say there.
Oh yeah, we will. We won't bore the lads anymore.
Thanks very much for coming on there. Everybody that joined the live chat, everybody that listens back, and Lewis Bonner, it'll be on Apple Pod at some time tomorrow, and it'll be on Spotify and that. It goes up a day automatically with one thing, but it'll be on that tomorrow. I know you keep going on about it. So I say thanks very much for coming on. This is our first podcast of the season. We'll be on more often, hopefully, there.
Oh, we will, bud. We will indeed.
So hail, hail, good night, and God bless. And let's never forget. Wait till we film a wee outro video there. Never forget.